Okay. Introduction to Information Security. So under this module, we're going to talk about the definition of information security, the CIA triad, the overview of cyber threats and their impact on businesses, the evolving threat landscape. We're going to tackle here the different types of cyber threats, including the statistics of cybercrime and the increasing value of data. And lastly, we are going to talk about the goals of information security. So these are protecting organizational assets and intellectual property, preserving the privacy and integrity, and preventing security breaches and minimizing risks. So without further ado, let's start our lesson proper. So for the first topic is what is information security or InfoSec. So InfoSec, we refer InfoSec as the practice of protecting information by mitigating information risks. Okay, so when we do information security, we are trying to mitigate the risks. Okay, so it should start with identifying the different kinds of risk for this particular information and mitigating them one by one. Okay, now InfoSec is also part of the risk management. So risk management, just like the ISO 27001. So without this, then there's no way for us to comply with the international standards such as the ISO 27001, because this is a framework on how we comply with the standards. Okay, now let's talk about the importance of information security. So the first one is compliances. So it helps ensure our organization to meet all mandatory compliances, regulatory, and other legal requirements to protect sensitive data. Now we all know that we have a legal requirements that's with the Data Protection Act, okay, that requires us to protect sensitive data. Next is we have the confidence. So it helps build confidence in our organization in conducting business on a day-to-day without significant disruption. So we are confident that there will be a little to no disruption with regards to the business processes when we are committed to information security. Then next one is the protection of data. So we have to protect sensitive data in our organization that creates, transmits, processes, or even stores the data on a certain location, whether that data is at rest or in motion. Okay? And then next is the protection of assets. So information security starts with identification of different assets that we value. Okay. Now, and from there, we have to apply InfoSec. Now, the importance of InfoSec with regards to asset is the protection that it gives to our critical assets, like systems or information assets or even core functions of the business. Okay. And then next is the protection of the data involving the CIA. So we all know that these are the core principles of of the InfoSec. So whatever we do, we have to achieve, okay, or we have to protect the CIA of the data. So the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability. Next is we are going to create a competitive advantage. Okay, so when we are applying information security, clients, customers, they can have some sort of confidence transacting business with us. Okay, and then lastly, we have the alignment of goals. So it helps aligns our information security goals with the YDC's business goals and objectives. So these are the importance of, or some of the importance of information security. Now, moving forward, let's discuss the core principles of the information security, or what they call the CIA triad. So we have the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So for the first one is this CIA triad. So what is this CIA triad? So this is a guiding model in InfoSec. Okay, remember these are the core principles. So this guides all the security controls, the processes. Okay, so if you want to apply InfoSec, then it should be or it should boil down here with these three principles. Okay, so it is designed to guide our policies or procedures for information security within YDC. So remember, we have a number of policies and procedures that aims to protect or safeguard information. So this is our guiding model. Okay, so this CI thread over here is our model on how we are going to apply InfoSec. Okay, and lastly, it is used in the ISO 27001, so which is a global standard for managing information security. Okay, so let's talk about this one by one. So the first one is confidentiality. So you can think of confidentiality as privacy. So, for example, when you send an email, you're redirecting the contents of that email to a specific person or group of people. Now, the protections in place that keep your email private are measures related to confidentiality. So, for example, you are protecting the attachments with password or encryption, okay, among others. So, this is confidentiality. It's keeping sensitive data private and safe from any unauthorized access. Now, for us to achieve the confidentiality of data, we have to put security measures that aims to preserve the confidentiality or secrecy of this data. Okay? So, confidentiality also is limiting access to only authorized individuals within the organization. We don't want confidential information be accessible to everyone here in YDC. Okay, we don't want restricted information to be disclosed in public. So confidentiality takes place when we limit the access of data to only authorized individuals. Now, what are the security controls that we can do to limit the access to authorized persons? There is the role-based access control, modifying the access settings of a certain platform, among others. Okay, so this includes also protecting information from bad actors with malicious intent. Now, for example, we have a data stored here now locally. Okay, so that computer may have vulnerability. Okay, which an attacker may take advantage of. Now, what do you think will happen if a confidential information gets stolen? Okay, so confidentiality is protecting this information from any threats out there. So we need to remember we need to preserve the secrecy and confidentiality of data. So okay, so whether bad actors or not, if they are not allowed to access to this information, then we don't give them access. Okay. So for the next principle, so we have the integrity. So what is integrity? So maintaining data integrity is important to make sure that the data and business analysts are accessing accurate information. So we're talking about the accuracy of information. So we have to keep, procedures or policies on which we achieve the accuracy of information. It's how we keep the data up to date. Okay. Uh, Integrity also is the assurance that information has not been tampered with or altered along the way. Okay. So how can we make sure that the data, okay, that I sent is the same data received by the recipient. Okay, so that is that is also uh, the integrity. Okay, so we have to make sure that the data has not been tampered along the way. Now, cybersecurity professionals might implement, access levels, enable tracking when making changes, or protecting data when transferring or even storing it. Okay. Now, integrity is also keeping information safe from unnecessary changes, okay, whether malicious or accidental. So when we say malicious or accidental, so for as long as there is an unauthorized modification of data, then that is a direct violation of integrity. Okay, now how are we going to put measures to keep this information safe from any unauthorized changes? Okay, so this is the principle of integrity. So returning to our email example, before. So when you send the email, so you assume that the information you relay is the information that arrives to the recipient. So any alteration to the information that might happen along the way, say for example, a third party intercepts the email and changes some key points, so means that the data has lost its integrity. Okay, and then for the last principle of the InfoSec, so we have the availability. So what is availability? So if data or systems are unavailable, it leads to downtime, so affecting productivity and potentially causing significant financial losses. Okay, so this principle over here aims to achieve the maximum availability possible of all the resources that we have here in YDC. Okay, so this aims to uh, be available. Okay, the information to be available at any given time. Okay, so resources are accessible to authorized users when needed. So try to imagine we really need this file to process, okay, immediately. And then upon checking the file, we don't have any some sort of access. Maybe the server is down or we can't really access the file. So that is a violation of the availability principle. So we have to put measures, okay, on how we should ensure that all the files or resources available when needed. Okay, and this also aims to maintain, the business continuity and operational efficiency. So how do we make sure that the business will continue to operate, okay, even with an event, okay? So we don't want something to get a response like service is unavailable, the file is unavailable, something like that. Okay, so this is a clear violation of the availability principle. All right. Okay. So moving on to the next topic, so we have the overview of cyber threats and their impact on businesses and individual. Now, before talking about this topic, so let's understand first what is a cybersecurity threat. Okay. Now, these threats are acts performed by individuals with harmful intent. So, what is a harmful intent? It could be for financial gain or personal gain, okay, which aims to destroy, disrupt, okay, so anything that could pose a significant harm to an individual or organization. So, that is a cybersecurity threat. Okay, so some of the goal includes to steal data, it could cause a damage or disrupt computing systems. Okay, so um, most often, cybersecurity threat target computer systems, networks, the information that could lead to financial loss, a data breach, or reputational damage. Now, a cyber threat is constantly evolving from time to time, affecting both businesses and individuals alike. Okay, so our measure should not be what do you call this? Or our security measures should be also kept up to date because cyber criminals or threat actors, they are really updating their tactics from time to time. Okay, so we have to keep up. We have to keep our security controls up to date with the latest threats. Okay, now what are the common sources of cyber threats? Now, for the first one is we have the nation states, or these are the hostile countries that could launch a cyber attack against any local companies or institutions aiming to interfere or may cause disorder or even inflict damage. Okay, so these are typically the nation state sponsored or a state sponsored cyber criminals. Okay, so the second one is a terrorist organization. So terrorists conduct cyber attacks aimed to destroy or abuse critical infrastructure. which could threaten the national security. It could disrupt, okay, economies and cause bodily harms to citizens. Then next source of cyber threat includes criminal groups. So these are organized groups of hackers aimed to break into computing systems for economic gains. Okay, so these groups use a variety of tactics, including phishing, spam. Okay, what else? Spyware, malware for extortion, theft of private information or confidential information, and even online scams. Okay, so these are criminal groups. Then we have the next source of threat is the hacker, okay, or hackers. So these hackers, okay, or individual hackers target organizations using a variety of attack techniques. So they are usually motivated by personal gain, revenge, financial gain, or even political activity. Okay, so these hackers often develop new threats to advance their criminal ability. Okay, and also improve their personal standing in the hacker community. And then for the last source of cyber threat is the malicious insider. So what is a malicious insider? So from the term itself, it's an insider. So that means this is an employee. It could be an employee. Okay, so an employee who has a legitimate access to company assets and abuses their privilege to steal information or damage computing systems. Okay, for financial gain or even personal gain. Okay, so a malicious insider might be or maybe employees. It could be a contractor, it could be a supplier or partners of this organization. Okay, so they can also be an outsider who have compromised a privileged account and impersonating some of the employees here. Okay, so these are some of the common sources of cyber threats. So now, since we discussed what is a cyber threat and the sources of cyber threat, the next thing that we have to talk about is the impact of a cyber threat. Now, cyber threat could impact both business and individuals alike. Okay, so let's talk about first the business. So what are the impacts of cyber threat in the business? So the first one is financial loss. So, for example, cyber attack like a ransomware or phishing and data breaches can cost companies millions in recovery and legal fees. Okay, so this is one of the consequences of cyber threat. Next, impact, it could be a reputational damage. Okay, so a data breach, for example, erodes customer trust or client's trust, so leading to lost business and potential lawsuits. Okay, so let's say, for example, we underwent a cyber, what do you call the cybersecurity breach that affects, hundreds of personal data. Then we are allowed to disclose them in public. Okay, so that is also that leads to reputational damage as well. Okay, next is the operational disruptions. So when a cyber threat occurred, okay, or cyber incidents can stop or halt business operations, which would cause downtime, or it could be even supply chain disruptions. Okay, and next is regulatory penalties. So companies failing to protect sensitive data may face fines, okay, due to data protection laws like the DPA here in the Philippines, the GDPR, okay, in UK, and then we have the CCPA and the HIPAA, okay. So these are some of the impacts of cyber threats with regards to business. Now, moving forward, let's talk about the impact of cyber threats for an individual. So the first one is identity theft. Okay, so hackers may steal personal data for fraud and unauthorized financial transactions. So pretending that the bad actor is the legitimate individual. Okay, so you have to be aware of posting your personal information or even sensitive information in the public. Okay, next is a privacy violation. Okay, so personal information leaks can lead to blackmailing, okay, or unwanted exposure. Okay, for example, there is a bad actor there who copied your profile in social media and pretending that you or pretending that they are the real identity. Okay, so for the next impact, we could suffer financial fraud. So what is financial fraud? So these are what do you call this, phishing scams and banking malware. Okay, result in unauthorized withdrawals or even purchases. Okay, and for the last one is the emotional stress. So victims of cyber crimes often experience anxiety, fear, and distress. Okay, so these are some of the impact of cyber threats